Hello, everybody. Um, this is Charlene. I am the Executive Director of the Blepharospasm Research Foundation. I want to welcome you to our webinar, Opening Our Eyes to Stress Management for Blepharospasm. I think Dr. Jaffe has a really great program lined up for you. We're going to take just a few minutes for people to figure out how to sign on. And while we do that, I am going to be maybe telling you a little bit, or even just reminding you a little bit about what we do at BEBRF. So I am going to pull up. Here we go. There we go. I want to remind you that this webinar is being recorded. If you want to watch it again later, we will post how you can connect to that on our website and on our Facebook page. So I want to tell you a little bit about BEBRF. Our mission statement has three facets to it. Research to find a cure. It's in our name, the Benign Essential Blepharospasm Research Foundation. Support because we care, and education to enlighten. Well, what exactly does that all mean? As far as research goes, we have funded almost $3 million in research to date. We have two really exciting research projects going on right now. One is with CBD oil, and the other one is narrowing in on the genetics of what possibly causes blepharospasm. So we're very excited about both of those projects. Also, this research, it's important to know this research has been funded almost entirely by donations. We get no government funding. When we do get grants, it's for specific projects like hosting a webinar or our symposium that we have every year. But the research is all funded by donations. Research grants are decided by the physicians and researchers on our medical advisory board. Our medical advisory board is made up of blepharospasm specialists from across the country. And so the research that we fund has a lot of integrity behind it. What do we mean by support? Well, first of all, we have a nationwide network of support groups. In just about every corner of the country, we have a support group where you can meet with people who are just like you and also want to share their experiences with you. Because of the pandemic, we have created Zoom support group meetings. So people are still able to continue meeting, just not in person. And one of the benefits of the Zoom support group meetings is that we are able to have national support group meetings. So in those areas of the country that are so remote, there may not be a support group meeting or a support group. These people can now join us in our national Zoom support group meetings. We maintain a national database of treating physicians. So if you have to move or your doctor retires or passes away, you can call us and we can help you find a doctor who treats blepharospasm, Bayesian hemifacial spasm. We do advocacy for our blepharospasm patients on both the national and local levels, meaning that we meet with the legislators in the state capitals and in the national capital to talk about things that are relevant to blepharospasm patients. Our education, our big event every year, education-wise, is our annual symposium. Well, of course, this year, because of the pandemic, it had to be postponed, but we will be having one next year. We have it in a different city every year so that we hope that soon we'll be close to you and you can attend in person if you don't like to travel very far. But in lieu of those of this symposium this year, we have started webinars. We had one in September with Dr. So Parker and Dr. Murdoch on taking control of your blepharospasm management. And today we have our webinar with Dr. Jaffe about stress management for your blepharospasm. We do a quarterly newsletter. There's one that's going to be mailed next week to you. It's got some great information in it, including an insider's look at how the Social Security disability system works and how you could possibly be getting your injections more often than every 3 months, no matter what your insurance company says. Right now, how to get your insurance company to help you get that more often. So be on the lookout for that. Also, we have a vast collection of research articles, brochures, and other materials that you might find helpful in your day-to-day struggle with blepharospasm. We also have a website that has a lot of really great information on it as well. We also find that not only educating patients, but also educating doctors is very important. And so we have been attending national medical academies to educate doctors. It occurred to us a couple of years ago that the first person that someone with blepharospasm is going to see is probably going to be their optometrist. So we have been really focusing on trying to educate optometrists at their national academies. And we even got a grant to put together a video to give to those optometrists so that they can know exactly what they're dealing with when they're dealing with blepharospasm. So now we are ready to launch into our webinar. Hold on one second while I do something technical here to make sure that Dr. Jaffe has the screen when she needs to have it. But we're very excited. I want to introduce Dr. Jaffe. Dr. Jalene Jaffe has been a California licensed marriage and family therapist since 1976. Her doctoral degree is in counseling psychology from USC. She holds several teaching and counseling credentials and retired from the education system after serving almost 40 years in public school settings, grades K through 12, as a teacher, a counselor, a psychomotor specialist, a grant writer, and a program development specialist. In her private psychotherapy practice in Sherman Oaks, California, Dr. Jaffe works with couples and relationship issues and has a specialization in helping those with medical conditions, including her unique approaches to treating tinnitus and misophonia, two sound conditions that sometimes drive people crazy. Dr. Jaffe is the co-author of The Heroic Journey, a rite of passage program for adolescents used in the Montessori middle schools and other private charter and home schools across the country. And she is also the co-author of The Language of Emotional Intelligence and is currently working on a few other book projects as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to introduce to you Dr. Jalene Jaffe.
Good morning. It says 100 and okay, like a lot of people here. All right, wonderful. I'm happy to be here. My little dog is reasonably content since I did take him out for a few minutes before we started. Now he's going to have to sit and wait. And we're going to get right into it. So let's see. Share screen. All right. Tell me if it's on your screen. Charlene, is it there? Charlene, can you see this? Do I get a yes?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Good. Okay, good. All right, we're off. So it's nearing the holidays, and there are all kinds of things going on in the world that are stressful. People who have BEB are stressed in the first place, and you know that stress makes everything worse. So any condition you have gets worse. So we're going to talk a little bit about what some of the things are that you might be able to do to decrease the stress and to manage it better when you do have it. I have blepharospasm. I will talk about that just a tiny bit. When I first got it, just as many of you, I went from doctor to doctor and got wrong diagnoses and Nobody really understood what was happening. And I was in a pit of depression, crawled into a hole, cried on the floor in the dark for weeks, and thought I was going to be out of my ability to practice as a therapist, because one of the things that therapists do is maintain eye contact with the person they're speaking with. And as many of you probably experienced, that's hard to do with blepharospasm. So my eyes move around, they close. And of course, at the time before it was identified and treated, they closed and squeezed shut and didn't open. And it was really mortifying to me as a therapist. And I thought, I'm done with this career. I was very depressed. Eventually, I decided, hey, you know what? I could use the problems that I'm experiencing to help other people with whatever problems they're experiencing. So I created Lemonade Counseling. What do you do when life gives you lemons? And I was able to transform the problems that I was experiencing into a successful practice, helping other people with the problems that they are experiencing, regardless of the medical condition, because the process of finding out there's something wrong, especially when it's a rare disorder, and then going from doctor to doctor and getting wrong information and all of the crazy things that go on with that, that's common to any medical problem, especially the ones that are rare or people don't know what they are. So because of Lemonade Counseling, I was able to start helping people who have the stress of a medical condition in their relationship and in their own life and at work and so forth. That morphed, I won't explain the details, but it morphed into my specialization, subspecialization in dealing with sound sensitivity disorders, particularly misophonia and tinnitus. So here's what we're going to talk about today. First of all, what is stress? What is anxiety? What causes those things? How can you avoid them? And then we're going to address some specific tools and strategies of dealing with things that affect you physically, emotionally, socially, and mentally. Although those are not actually distinct, separate issues. They are overlapping because your physical situation is connected to everything else and so forth. All of them are connected, but I'm going to sort of arbitrarily divide them up into segments to talk about them. And we're going to talk about how to manage around specific stressors like the holidays, how you feel about the election. If we had had this webinar a couple weeks ago, there would have been a lot of stress about that. There probably still is. And then, of course, the pandemic. So first of all, I'm curious to see who is here today. So Charlene's going to put up a little poll to find that out. And so when it shows up on your screen, if you would kindly check things off there, and there's more than 2, it goes down to 4 questions. So please check off the answers to those so that we can get a sense of who is here today. I'll shut up for a minute and give you a chance to do that. Okay, so Charlene, when we have a whole bunch of them in there, maybe you will pop up the results and we'll find out who's here today. The magic of Zoom and technology. It used to be we'd say, raise your hand if, and the people in the audience would do that, but can't see all of you, so this is the way to do it. So do we have some results?
I think everyone's voted, so I'm going to hit end.
Good.
And I'm going to share the results.
All right. So not unexpectedly, most people who have blepharospasm seem to be female. And in this case, of the respondents, 83% are female, and 17 are male. We don't have other, I had to put that in there because nowadays they're not probably in this age group, but in other age groups, there are many people who do not any longer identify as male or female. So I put in other. All right, in age, this is also not unexpected. Typically, people with blepharospasm are midlife or beyond. So we have 51% are in my age category, and we have 45% are in the category of people at the time that I was diagnosed, and a few people under that. A lot of people are living with somebody else, with one other person, 61%, more than one other person, 13%. I'm in the second category. I happen to be living alone, and I do have a pet. And this is important. It's going to come up later. That's why it's on here. 18% live alone with no pets. All right. How long have you had BEB? A few people are recently diagnosed. They are possibly the same as the people who were the younger age group. I don't know. And then people who've had it for many years. My personal category here is 21 to 30 years. Most people are somewhere in the middle there. Okay. Thank you very much for those demographics.
Dr.
Yes.
Jaffe, could we get your slideshow into slideshow format? Right now we can see all of the slides across the bottom.
Oh, thank you for pointing that out. Okay, let's see. Is that better?
Well, it's not up at all yet.
Okay.
There we are. Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so we did this one. Let's go on to the next one, which is, let's find out what is currently on your mind. What is currently most stressful to you of the things that are going on in your world, personally, and in the world? So if you can put up that survey, please, Charlene.
For some reason, that one is not showing up.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Well, all right.
Let's see if I can find it.
Well, while Charlene is looking for that, I will say what's on that list are the things that, oh, no, not that one.
That's the other one.
The other one. What's on the other list are the things that occurred to me might be what are stressors to you right now. One is BEB itself and the effect it has on your world. Another is, I don't remember the order that I sent them in. The next one is the effects of the pandemic and the lockdown. Another is COVID itself, whether you are concerned about getting ill or somebody that you know who's gotten ill. Let me see what else is on there. Political environment. And I think there's something else. Oh, the holidays, upcoming holidays. And then something else that said other. So those are the categories. We won't apparently be taking a poll of those, but those are the categories. So if you think about that, if that does show up, then we'll be able to get an idea of which direction I might slant things a little bit. But meanwhile, moving on. Shall I move on, Charlene? And then you can look for it or not. It doesn't matter anymore. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself briefly. This is not me But when I first got diagnosed with BEB, well, before I got diagnosed, I was driving in my car wearing literally 4 pair of glasses, sunglasses. This particular picture I found has 3 pair. I had 4 pair, and it didn't make any difference. It felt like a laser beam of light was shooting into my eye. That was one of my early symptoms, and exhaustion and a bunch of other things. Over the years, these are some pictures of me with my FL41 lenses, and I know probably many of you have those lenses. Maybe some of you have heard of them. They've helped me. They did help me a lot. I tried a lot of other things, I had a long list of things. I wrote an article in the BEB newsletter some while ago about many of the things that I did in order to deal with it. This picture that I just put up is what I looked like sitting in my office, which was, you know, here I am, the therapist with dark glasses. It was kind of embarrassing to me, but there you go. I actually went skiing with a disabled organization, an organization that deals with disabled athletes. I was not an athlete. I had been skiing a couple of times before, but they had 2 guides and they had a sign on me that said I was blind, which, you know, I wasn't blind, but I was functionally blind if my eyes were closed. And it was a pretty awesome experience. So if you haven't been able to do sports and things like that, and you want to look into it, there are 2 organizations that do that help people with all kinds of disabilities. And eventually I found Botox was the last thing I wanted to do. Yeah, sign me up, give me poison, exactly what I want. But in fact, Botox has been the most successful treatment for me. That's a little map of all the sites of where I'm injected. I do my best not to pay attention. So I had to look at that to see. And also, the last time I was there, which was a month or so ago, I decided to do an experiment based on one of the things from one of the people on the staff here. We were talking about whether the cream helps or whether some doctors, it was after the last webinar, and the suggestion was made, don't use the numbing cream because it's more effective if you don't. And I did an experiment with a subject of 1 person, me. One eye used the cream and the other eye did not. And I found that I was able to tolerate the non-use of the cream. I was surprised that I didn't scream or kick or anything. It wasn't too bad. And then my next part of the experiment is to see, does it last any differently on one side or the other? So the jury's still out on that because it hasn't been too long, but I'm thinking that's about as far as I can wrinkle my nose right now. And I think I can wrinkle it just a tiny bit more on this side, which is the side that had the cream, than this side, which did not. So it may turn out that, in fact, it was a little more effective. I don't know. We'll see. The jury is still out on that. So one of the most important things about dealing with stress is having a perspective and having an attitude that works for you rather than against you. This is what happened when I established Lemonade Counseling. Was I took the idea that life had given me lemons, gives a lot of other people lemons. Does that mean that we have to stop functioning and doing something, maybe not the same things, but something? And so that was where that came from. I have a story on my website, Lemonade Counseling website, about 2 soldiers. I arbitrarily named them Joe and Al. They go away to war. They both have similar injuries. They come back and they're both paralyzed from the neck down. They're in a rehab facility. Of course, they're severely depressed. One of them stays angry and depressed and is miserable. The other one comes out from the bottom of his funk and says to himself, well, there's nothing I can do about this, so I might as well just do the best I can. So he becomes pleasant and he has visitors and he helps the new people that show up there, newly injured soldiers, and people enjoy being with him, and he lives however long he lives in a reasonably happy state given the circumstances that he's stuck with. The other guy, nobody wants to talk to him or be near him because he's cranky all the time and miserable and angry. And the two of them live about the same amount of time, but the quality of their life is extremely different. It's because of their attitude about their situation, not the situation itself. So I kind of like to keep that in mind. My mom had a friend who had more medical conditions than any human being ought to have ever had to deal with. And one day she called my mom and she said, "I am so lucky." And my mom is thinking, what? How could she think of herself as being lucky? She has so many things wrong. And she said, my tumors are encapsulated, which means they have not metastasized, they're contained. So she's still got all these tumors, which eventually, I guess, is what took her out. But she turned it so that she could look at it from the better standpoint and make it more tolerable to herself. She was relatively happy, even though she had a lot of things, because her tumors were encapsulated. So how we look at the things that are wrong makes a big difference. So what you think about the condition that you have with blepharospasm, or perhaps living with a person who has blepharospasm, makes a difference. So let's talk about stress and anxiety. What is stress? It is a response to something that's threatening. It's a normal and healthy reaction of the body to something that is dangerous or harmful or potentially. We all experience stress. It could be good stress. They call that eustress. That's the kind of stress that got me to finish this presentation in time to deliver it to you. It wasn't finished last week or even a few days ago, but it was finished in time to bring it to you because of that kind of stress. The other kind is what we usually think of, which is the bad stress, distress, that makes us unhappy and can make us more than that. I'll show you in a little bit. Good stress can be motivating, but stress can have many other components and effects on the body and life. People react differently to stress depending on a lot of things, including their history and their health. So here are some of the things that stress does to the body. I pulled this off of somebody's website, obviously. Short-term effects, being worried, heart palpitations, breath quickening, upset stomach, skin issues, genital, sexual problems, tense muscles. And in the long range, you can end up with things like headaches, mental health problems, serious heart problems, trouble breathing, hyperventilating, panic attacks, skin conditions, increased risk of type 2 diabetes, and fertility problems. So stress wreaks havoc on the body. Now, in order to talk about the difference between stress and anxiety and its impact, we have to also talk about fear. So what is fear? Fear is a healthy survival reaction to an actual or perceived danger. It is to a known or a definite threat, or maybe a perceived threat. Anxiety, on the other hand, is an apprehension about something that isn't happening. It's the possibility that it could happen. It's not an immediate threat. It comes from your mind's interpretation that maybe there's danger there. It's a thinking problem. It tricks your brain into thinking that it's really happening. So for example, if I were to take this lemon right here that I have from Lemonade Counseling, I could pick it off of my lemon tree back here. And if I were to take that lemon and cut it, my mother would be upset with me cutting on my hand, with a knife, but cut it. Oh, this lemon is juicy and there's dripping all over. I'm going to get it on my keyboard if I'm not happy. I'm going to take a strip of it, a slice of it, and I'm going to give it to you. And I want you to take this slice of lemon and bite into it right now. Just take it in, bite into it, and just feel that lemon sour juice in your mouth and going down your throat. Not taking a poll, but most people will feel some salivation. Some people will just like pucker up. They'll feel like, oh my goodness. But where is the lemon? There is no lemon. It is in your imagination, it's in your thought, but your body does not know the difference. So anxiety is a thinking problem where your brain is tricked into thinking that it's currently in a dangerous situation, even if it isn't. And then your body starts acting as if something bad is going on. And this can become a habit. And then you have pervasive anxiety that just hangs on all the time. Anticipatory anxiety is all of the stuff you attach to future negative scenarios, like what if this, what if that? How many times do you say what if, and the answer is something positive? So give that a try. Well, what if, what if things turn out fine? What if the virus, what if the vaccine works? What if the immunity drugs work? What if whatever? Something rather than, oh my God, what if I get this? What if so think about some positive what ifs. That's not generally what people say to themselves. So the difference between fear and anxiety, just in summary, fear is present oriented and it's a healthy survival response to something that really could be harmful. Anxiety, on the other hand, is future oriented and you're thinking about something and that the brain doesn't know isn't happening right now. And that's the really not healthy part. So how do you deal with stress and anxiety? Well, first of all, we take out my magic wand. I actually have my magic wand is right here in my desk. I have it, I keep it with me so that I can, fix whatever it is that's wrong with people. Just in the moment, there's my magic wand. Yes, well, no, I wish it worked, but my magic wand is out of juice. It doesn't really work. So instead of that, let's look at some things you can do about physical stress. This thing, we're going to all do it together, and then I'm going to explain what it does. So at this moment, if you will all please, we're going to take a breath in while I count to 5, and then we're going to exhale while I count to 7. So here we go. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here's what you just did. It turns out that if you exhale more than you inhale, it will deactivate the fight, flight, freeze part of the system called the sympathetic nervous system. And it will activate the parasympathetic, which is the part that says, chill, calm down, take it easy, everything's fine. So I said 5 in, 7 out. It doesn't make any difference. Whatever you take in, exhale more than that, it'll begin to calm your system down immediately. So do it when you're not stressed as a practice so that you'll have that ready to go if you actually do need it later on. You can tie it to something you do many times a day to remind you to do it. Every time you take a text message or every time you come to a red light if you're driving or whatever, something that you'll say, oh yeah, remember, take one of those breaths. And then you'll be more likely to remember to do it when you're actually beginning to feel stressed. Now, here are a few other things. I obviously pulled this off of somebody's website. Let's check out some of the things in our bodies for tension. So starting at the top, soften your forehead between your brows. For those of us with blepharospasm, we hold a lot of tension in our faces. So soften your forehead, open your mouth and wiggle your jaw. Roll your neck. I sit in front of the computer a lot, and so does everybody else these days. So our necks and shoulders get very tight. Drop your shoulders so you can roll them up and then drop them down. Take a deep breath into your chest. breathe out instead of, breathe out more. Okay. And let go of your stomach muscles being tense and gripping, and notice that your butt, your glutes may be tight. Let those relax too. Those are things you can do to relax your body physically, and that'll begin to help your mind relax. There's something else like that called progressive muscle relaxation, PMR, where you tighten and release muscle. Like sometimes we don't realize how tight a muscle is. My shoulders are tight all the time. I have like rocks up here, and I don't even realize it because it's so automatic. So one way to relax those, any group of muscles, is you make them tighter on purpose. You make them as tight as you can, and then you let them go. And that'll help loosen them up a little bit. Progressive muscle relaxation is also often done by starting at the bottom. You start with your toes or your feet without your shoes on, and you tighten them up while you inhale. You tighten them up as tight as you can, and then you exhale and you let them go. And then you move on up to your calves, your thighs, and you do the same thing. You tighten, 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 and then let go. Inhale and exhale. You can go all the way through the body. You can do it in small muscle groups or large groups. You could do, like half of your leg or your whole leg, or you can break it down into little pieces like your toes and then your feet and then your ankles. It depends how much time and energy you want to put into doing it. And then you scan your body and let go of any remaining tension that you can. And it's a way to just kind of flush the tension out of your body. Now, another physical thing you can do is get a massage or a facial, or give yourself one. So you can get a professional massage if you can find a massage place that's open somewhere now. I'm not sure they're open locally, but maybe they are where you are. Or get a facial. Somebody's going to be touching your skin and is going to relax the muscles and help your body feel better. If you live with someone, you can give each other a massage. You can massage your own hands with all parts of your hands. There's one, I came across a 5-minute hand massage that you actually sit there and watch, and you have cream on your hands and you do this whole thing. And it's like you go each finger, and then you go back another time and you do the sides of the fingers, and one time you do the top and the bottom. And anyway, it does the whole hand. You can do your feet. You can do your face and your scalp. Oh, scalp massages feel so good. You can do your ears. This is important because our central nervous system, all the nerves come into the spine. They come up and they run into our brain, but they have an end somewhere. So where do they end? They end in our hands, our feet, our scalp, and our ears. So if you massage those things, it helps relax the nerve all the way through. You can get those squeezy stress balls and just squeeze them and let them go. Let's move on to mental stress. So that was physical. And as I said at the beginning, they're not really separate and distinct. They overlap, but we're going to divide them up a bit here. So mental. Here's a really useful tool. You're going to make 2 lists. You just take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and on one side, you title it, Things I Cannot Change or Control. And the other side is Things I Can Change or Control. If we had the time right now, I would ask you to do that right now. But I don't want to take up more of the time of what I want to tell you. So we're going to go on, but do that. I highly recommend that you do it. And then put your time and energy on the things you can do something about. People make themselves crazy over all the things they can't do anything about. the election results, the weather, traffic, a medical problem, whatever it is, if you keep banging your head on the wall about something that you actually can't fix, you cannot control it, it'll just make you miserable all the time. So put your energy on the things you can do something about. If it has to do with politics, maybe next time around you'll do promoting for candidates of your choice, or maybe next time around you'll go and be a poll watcher or something. Put your time and energy into driving at a different time instead of at high traffic, so you don't have to be so upset, or dressing appropriately for the weather, whatever it is. Now, those of you who are familiar with the 12-step programs may recognize the connection in the thing that they do in all the 12-step programs. They have this thing they call the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. This list is the wisdom part. And then you can go on from there to graciously accept what you can't do anything about and put your energy into the things you can. Now, in cognitive behavioral therapy, it has to do with what you think, how you behave, and how you behave connected. There are some what they call cognitive distortions, and a lot of people spend their time with these things. Very black and white, all or nothing thinking. So let's take BEB, for example. This is going to completely ruin my life. All or nothing. It wasn't, when this first hit me, it wasn't, I'm going to have to change the direction in the way I manage things. It was, this is going to completely ruin my practice. At the time, I didn't know that's what I had, but that's the polarized part. Overgeneralizing, you have this giant neon language. Nobody else has to deal with this. Everybody else is doing fine. I'll never be able to, that kind of thing. Catastrophizing. This is the worst thing that's ever happened. This is horrible. It's never going to end. All those kind of giant catastrophic pictures that people make about life. Personalizing things, why does this always happen to me? I'm just such an unlucky person. Many things don't have anything to do with you. They just happen. They happen to you and they happen to everybody else. Pandemic is a great example of that one. Mind reading. Oh, I did a lot of mind reading. I'm sitting in my office and my eyes are closing and I'm thinking to myself, instead of being able to pay attention to this person, I'm thinking, oh, what does this guy think? Because my eyes are closing and I'm not looking at him, or I'm looking down, or I'm looking over there. And you go off on a trip. You don't know what the other person's thinking. You're making it all up. Negative filter. Everything is either negative, or if something's positive, you discount it. Oh my, you look nice today. Oh, it's not a good hair day. You discount a compliment. And a lot of shoulds, where you judge yourself and you judge other people. So in cognitive behavioral therapy, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are connected. If you change one of them, it automatically affects the others. So if you're feeling gloomy, change what you're thinking or change what you're doing, and it will change how things are going for you. Emotional stress. Most people have heard of the placebo. So they give somebody a pill that has nothing in it to compare it to the pill that has the actual thing in it. Right now they're testing these viruses. So they're giving some people the antiviral, the vaccinations. They'll give some people the real thing that they're testing, and they'll give some people a non-real thing, and then they look for the results. And when people say, well, it's just a placebo effect, what they mean is that change took place, but they were given a non-real intervention. Well, why did they get better? Somebody finally asked, how does that work? Well, it has to do with the fact that your brain, your thinking is not actually separate from what happens in your body. So if you think it's going to make you better, you start behaving and feeling and acting and moving toward better. And then you start maybe getting better. This is how they work for us, but they also can work against us because there's the reverse of it that's called the nocebo effect. So the doctor says, oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, you've only got 2 months to live. And sure enough, 2 months from the day, Mrs. Jones passes. Maybe she would have, maybe he was right. But on the other hand, maybe she took his prediction as, I don't know, God's truth or something. And she made that happen in her own body, or she helped it happen. I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying she helped it happen because she didn't hear it as she might have heard it if he had said, we have no idea, we don't know. Maybe you'll be around for a long time. And if she starts thinking that way, her body starts behaving in a different way. So it helps to have an attitude of gratitude, a positive attitude. Look for the good things that are happening in your life and around you. And there's this famous story. It's called Blessings in Disguise, or The Farmer and His Horse. A very quick version of it is the farmer has this horse that gets out of his corral, and the neighbors come over in this little village in wherever it is, Russia or someplace. The neighbors come over and they say, oh, you poor man, your horse is gone. And he says, well, all I know is my horse is gone. And then the next day, the horse comes back and he brings a herd of wild horses following him into the corral. And the neighbors come over and they say, oh, you lucky man, your horse brought back all these other horses. Well, I don't know if I'm a lucky man, but I just know that the horse brought back all these other horses. So then the next day, his young son gets on the horse. One of the wild horses falls off and breaks his leg. And the neighbors say, oh, you poor man, your son broke his leg. Farmer says, I don't know if I'm a poor man. I just know my son broke his leg. And the next day, the Tsar's army comes and recruits all the young men in the village into the army, except for the one with the broken leg. And the neighbors, of course, say, oh, you lucky man. And he says, I don't know. I just know it is what it is. And we don't necessarily know what it means until later. So hang on there. There may be a blessing in disguise. My entire practice, psychotherapy practice, changed and became better because I developed blepharospasm. So how do you deal with stress? And I couldn't have told you that at the time that it started. I couldn't have seen that blessing. Okay, how do you deal with stress? All the obvious things. Eat well, take supplements, do something that moves your body in a healthy way, walk, yoga, some kind of martial art things, Tai Chi, Qigong, that move your body slowly and mindfully. Dance, do other exercise. Go out and be in nature. It helps boost your mood. Try aromatherapy or just light some candles. Try different scents and see how they make you feel. Listen to some music, either that calms you down or lifts you up. Watch things that make you laugh. Meditation or prayer, or look for mindfulness in everyday action. So mindfulness is a big buzzword now. What does it mean? Oh, sorry, I can't see the next slide, so I don't know what's coming up. I'll get to that. So other ways of dealing with anxiety, do that breathing thing where you inhale and then you exhale more. Do some grounding exercises. They bring you to the moment, the present moment, where none of these awful what ifs are happening. So look around you and name things you see in your environment, name colors that you see, count something that you see many of, touch surfaces and identify them. This is bumpy, this is smooth, whatever it is. It brings you to the here and now where none of these bad things are happening. So now what is mindfulness? Mindfulness, defined by the person who's taught more classes on this than anybody else. Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally. John Kabat-Zinn, who created mindfulness programs, and anyway, it means you simply pay attention to what's happening. So here are some examples. You can meditate mindfully. You can walk mindfully. Pay attention to what you're doing while you're walking. Talk to someone and really give them your attention. Do something in the yard, gardening, and pay attention to what you're doing. You can be mindfully doing the dishes, noticing the soap and the water and the smoothness of the surfaces, whatever. You can sit in the sun and take it in and be mindful. You can try accepting what you can or cannot change. That's a mindful exercise. Be here now. Be here in this moment, in this present moment. Babies are wonderful little things to watch and play with. They are very mindful. They're just all about being in the present moment. And so are kitties and puppies. Eat with attention rather than, you're eating and the next thing you know, the food's gone and it's like, who ate that? It wasn't me. I wasn't even here. I don't know where I was, but I wasn't paying attention to my food. So take your time, eat mindfully with attention each moment, noticing what you're chewing, how it tastes, how it feels in your mouth, all that. Actually, anything you do can be done mindfully, even doing nothing. So when people say, well, I don't have time to sit for a half an hour on the top of a mountain away from everything and meditate, you don't have to do that. You just have to be present to what you're doing right now in this moment without judging it. Oh, my eyes are closing. Okay, that's what they're doing. If you're judging it and you're going, oh my God, my eyes are closing. What do people think? How am I going to get through this? That's just going to get you more upset. If you can just be present to the moment without judging it. Oh, this is what's happening. That is what mindfulness is. So how do we deal with the social stress caused by the pandemic? It's making people sad and lonely and isolated. In particular, this is November. We're coming up on Thanksgiving and then all those holidays that show up in December, family gatherings, New Year's, all these things that happen between November and December. We tend to want to be together with family and friends. That's what we do with those holidays. But now we're being told that that's not a good idea. It depends where you live, I suppose. But in California, we are being asked to stay home and don't do anything because the pandemic is spreading. The numbers keep going up. So what can we do to deal with the holidays in particular? You can consider creating some new traditions. These are unusual circumstances. How can we deal with them? Well, clearly we can do Zoom gatherings. It's not the same as being there in person, but my family in April, I think it was in April, had a Passover Seder, Zoom. Your family may have had an Easter celebration online. We find ways to meet with each other, the people that we care about, and at least have a chance to be together and talk with each other and see each other's faces. Some people do, instead of a Thanksgiving, they're doing a Friendsgiving, where they're doing the same kind of thing, but with friends, maybe local friends. And if they feel safe with it, maybe they're going to have a meal in somebody's backyard, spread out, that kind of thing, even though they're not traveling to see their family members who are out of state or something. Or I know a family that's doing a Fakesgiving, and they're calling it that because they lost their son to COVID. He was a frontline worker in a hospital. And they don't want to celebrate Thanksgiving. They're not feeling thankful. So they're going to have a Fakesgiving. And the family members who actually still live in the house or who have been seeing each other, the pod, is going to get together and do something other than the usual Thanksgiving. They could be thankful they have each other, and they're devastated about the loss of the son and brother. You can allow yourself to feel sad or angry or whatever it is you feel. Let those feelings come up, accept them, be mindful of them, and let them go. Feelings come and they go. They don't stay. You don't stay stuck on them 24/7 for the rest of your life. If you do, you need help from a professional. There are many ways to get assistance, but generally feelings come and they go if you let them. Look for something positive out of the situation. We're going to appreciate our family members more, perhaps. We're going to appreciate our freedom to travel more. We're going to appreciate that the whole world is in this together. We have a common cause here. Look for a silver lining in the middle of all these clouds. So in the psychology world, one of the ways this is worded is reframing. So if you look at these two pictures, they're actually the same. It's kind of blurry, but they're actually the same picture. And they're the same size, the two pictures, but they're framed differently. So they look different because of the framing. So when you reframe something, when you put it in a different context, it changes the way that it looks. So reframe the situation that you're in. The cartoon thing says, you're not stuck at home, you're safe at home. That's a reframe. The quote, the comment over here on the other side, there was somebody that was being interviewed last night in the middle of all of the conversations about COVID and everything. Her mother died, and the family is not going to do Thanksgiving and travel to see each other. And she said, we're going to miss our holiday getting together this year, but it means we will have more gatherings in the future. And we're going to give up our holiday once for the benefit of having future holidays to enjoy together, rather than potentially losing more of our family members. That's a reframe. So consider how you can look at it differently and make it more tolerable. So people who live alone, COVID has some serious impacts, and I live alone, so I can personally attest to some of these things. For people who are introverts or who like being alone, it's peaceful, it's quiet. They haven't had a terrible time dealing with COVID in that sense. But for other people, they're extremely isolated, they're sad, they're lonely, and they've got this hunger for touch, for being held and hugged. So this is why I asked if you have any animals. If you have a dog or a cat, that helps. You can cuddle up. There have been more pet rescues in this pandemic. The shelters are emptying out because people have adopted animals so their kids can play with them. But another reason is so that people can just cuddle up with them. If you don't have a live animal, grab a stuffed animal. Go out and find a really squishy, lovely, comforting, soft, furry animal. I saw a thing in CVS the other day. I would have bought it, but I have a live animal, so I didn't mean to do that. But it was a cat, and it was as alive as it could be. It purrs, it moves, you can hold it on your lap, you can pet it. It's like for people who are living alone, it'd be an alternative. Take hot baths or showers or drink hot cocoa. These things help soothe the body and make you feel comforted. Go outside, walk, breathe fresh air, be in the sun if there's sun possible. Do things that make you feel better. So you can stay in touch with your family online. You can learn a new activity or do something that you already enjoy doing, whatever that might be. A lot of people have learned how to cook and garden and things like that, baking bread and so forth during the pandemic. these are physical touch things that are helpful for people who live alone. So you can get a weighted blanket and put it on lay under it for 15 minutes or more during the day. They're very expensive. The really good quality ones are expensive, and the heavier they are, the more expensive they are, but keep your eye open. I saw some on Target the other day that were bargain. They were much lower priced. So use a weighted blanket. Why does a weighted blanket help? Well, this thing over in the corner, Temple Grandin, who's an autistic genius person, became very well known for her work with cattle. She discovered, well, she knew that she couldn't stand being touched by people, but she was craving some kind of physical pressure. So she built herself a squeeze machine. She would get inside there, it's padded, and she would get inside and turn it on, and it would gently close in on her and then go out and then close in. It was a squeeze machine. She developed it in using it with cattle, but she also found that it was helpful for herself. So the weighted blanket is sort of a version of that. It's that pressure. If you need some physical touch, go see a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, somebody who's going to touch your body. That just gives you a little bit of that neural stimulation. Now, if you live with someone, you could end up with more closeness and bonding because you're together a lot in this pandemic, but also a lot of people are experiencing that strain of being at home in a small space. Everybody's working at home. Their kids are in school at home. There's too much familiarity, too much contempt. One partner may want more sex than the other, and that's a stressor. There are different styles that get highlighted, like somebody is more casual, somebody else is more rigid, and it was fine when one of them went to work every day, but now that everybody's at home, it's very obvious and it's very irritating. And arguments sometimes lead to, threats of, I'm leaving, this is over and done because this is terrible. Okay, so high anxiety leads to more extreme reactions than we would normally have. And that leads to higher conflict, and that leads to possible bad outcomes. There have been higher rates of domestic violence in this pandemic. There are all kinds of things that happen when people are under this excessive pressure. So here are some of the things that might help. Acknowledge that this current situation is unusual and it is definitely more stressful. Try to be on the same team so that you're confronting the problems rather than the other person. It's not anybody's fault individually in your household, probably, that this is happening. So be on the same team and don't take it out on each other, or apologize if you do blow up at each other. Do some things together and other things separately. Explore new challenges and activities. Develop new skills, games, do movie night, whatever, do some physical activities, do partner mindfulness or yoga. This room is the neatnik and the sloppy person, which when you're not together 24/7 is a little bit easier to manage, but it gets to be overwhelming sometimes. And then people get very cranky with each other. So give yourself and your partner and other family members a lot of slack. Try not to be such a perfectionist. And be grateful that you have someone there. I was talking to one of my clients the other day who's complaining because he's a people person and the only people he gets to see are his wife, his parents, his wife's parents, his wife's sister and brother-in-law, and their kids. And I'm sitting here on the other end by myself thinking, what are you complaining about, dude? Be grateful. You have all those people you get to spend time with. So here's another thing. If you live with someone, Sex is a good tension reliever, even if you don't desire it. And that could include self-stimulation or even porn. It's a way to deal with stress. So in summary, your mind and your body are connected. Your attitudes and your beliefs affect the outcomes of things. If you believe that everything is going to be horrible, you're going to feel horrible all the time. If you believe that things are going to improve over time, you will feel more comforted. Stress is absolutely unavoidable. There just are things in life that are stressful, but they can be managed. If you have fear, that's healthy. But if you have anxiety, that's not healthy. And anxiety can be avoided or controlled. They have all kinds of anti-anxiety medications. But before you go to those, try some of the tools that we've been talking about to calm down your anxiety and manage it. If you stay in the present moment, which is actually the only one there is, that is the antidote to anxiety. So if you're living in the past and regretting things that happened or feeling bad about it or looking back in wistful terms or whatever, or if you're going into the future and all the what ifs, you're not in the present, you're not in the real moment, and you're going to be stressed and you're going to be anxious. So stay in the present. And remember, whatever it is, this too shall pass. Bad times and good times. So I wish you peaceful and safe days ahead. I wish you health, and I wish you a good holiday season. Thank you for being here. And I believe we have some time for questions if that is what happens next.
Hi, yes. I'm just checking to see what questions. First of all, I want to thank you very, very much. That was a lot of information and a lot of tips. And for those of you who said, oh, I want to try that, or I want to try this, and then, you know, there was 10 more that you want to try, please remember that we are going to be posting this online so that you can check back for all the things that you're not remembering that you wanted to try later on. And I'm getting a lot of comments here that say, thank you, that was excellent. Oh my gosh, thank you, that was good. Let's see what questions I can pull up for you. Please give names of organizations that help people with disabilities.
So the two organizations with which I went skiing, one of them is called DSUSA, Disabled Sports USA. And the other one, oh my goodness, what was the other one called? I forget the name of it, but you can find them. I'm sure you can find them online. Organizations that help people with disabilities do sports, and they do awesome things. They took kids who had cerebral palsy or who were amputees or whatever, and they took them on these sleds in the snow, and not just snow sports. They take people on boats and, you know, canoes and bicycles and all kinds of stuff. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, yes, and in my experience too, every city of any size is going to have an organization that works with people. Usually they're named something like Centers for Independent Living and that sort of thing. And they're going to be able to help a variety of disabilities that they face, that their constituents face all the time. So a little Google search in your area or even in your yellow pages under disabilities would probably, does anyone use the yellow pages anymore? Okay, let me see. Is your shoulder tightness related to blepharospasm?
Well, I am not a medical doctor, so I can't answer that, but I can tell you, for me, I think it doesn't help. What can I say? It doesn't help because there are muscles and nerves in the shoulders that are connected to the things in your head. And so anything that's tense or stressed in the body is going to affect whatever the problem is that we have. Does it directly connect to the nerves that are causing this to happen. I guess when they figure out what's actually causing it to happen, maybe they'll come up with an answer to that. I don't know.
Well, okay. Here's a question that I think it's not actually placed in the form of a question, but maybe you have some tips of advice to help this. It says, although I have been getting Botox eye injections for more than 4 years, I have a fear of needles. I get tensed up, suffer great anxiety, panic. I am unable to relax prior to the injection procedure. How would you counsel that person?
Well, so first of all, I found early on, I've been getting Botox for 20 years or more than 20 years. And I'd say part of it is the doctor, the different techniques. I've had consistently good doctors in the last several years. They are not as painful as they were at the beginning. Second of all, that cream made a big difference. Now I told you I'm doing an experiment, so it wasn't too bad on the other side, but the cream helps a lot. It numbs the skin and it makes it easier to tolerate. The mental attitude about needles is the part you can address. You can do some of the reframing that in this talk that I mentioned. Do some things where you talk yourself off that cliff where you're so scared and nervous about needles. You may have had a bad history with needles. I don't know. Some people had terrible experiences when they were little and, they're scared of needles. Nobody particularly likes needles. I don't know anyone who likes getting injections of any sort. And with Botox or whichever brand you end up using, the needles, it's not you're getting a vaccination, a shot. You're getting a whole lot of them. I told you I didn't count, but it's something for me. It's something like, I think it's something like 15 on each side or something like that, including in the eyelids. I mean, they go all around here and in the eyelids and on the side of the nose, and maybe it's 12, I don't know. But anyway, it's a lot. So what I do when I'm sitting in the chair is I leave. I do the same thing when I'm at the dentist. I dissociate intentionally. I go somewhere else. When I'm at the dentist and he keeps checking in with me, are you doing okay? Are you doing okay? And I say to him, shut up. Don't ask. I'll let you know if I'm having a problem because I don't want to think about him. So I'm off somewhere else, planning, what I'm going to cook or planning where I'm going, or I don't know, I'm off somewhere else thinking about what slides I want to put into this presentation. I go away mentally. So I'm not there. That's one thing. On your way to that, you're doing that anticipatory anxiety thing. You're getting yourself worked up and worried about something that isn't happening right now, isn't happening, but you think is going to happen. You're worried about it. You're scaring yourself. It is not happening now. Chill, calm, do all those relaxation things we were talking about. When you get into the chair, do that breathing thing, and it's over pretty quickly. So, we do a lot of worrying ahead of time. And then when we actually get to the thing, whatever the thing is, it's not that long. I mean, how long does it take them to do that? 5 minutes, maybe? I don't know.
Okay, while you were saying that, a couple of people tuned in with things they try that helps them through the injections because they have the same fear. One of them says that when she gets in the chair or whatever, she does the deep breathing all the way through the injections, just the very deep breathing. Another one said that she's fine with the injections until they get to her eyelids. And so when they're injecting on the eyelids, she tries humming, and that seems to help her as well. Another one says, I'm just reading it right now. I take myself to a happy place, pretend I'm on the beach, smell the water, hear the waves. That's what you're saying when you say you take yourself out of it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So several people want to know about the cream that you use.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell them what it is? Do they need a prescription?
No, the doctor puts it on. I believe it's called Emmeline. I don't actually know exactly what they're using.
I think it's called EMLA.
EMLA. Okay. It's a numbing cream. So they put it on. It's like lidocaine or something when the dentist rubs stuff on your gums and then it's numb. And after you get through with the dentist, that your mouth is, if they injected you with numbing something or other, your mouth is kind of still numb for a while and your lip is a little bit weird for a while. It's like that. It's like you're getting lidocaine or something. They put on this cream and they leave it on for, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like that. Then they come and they wipe it off and then the doctor does his thing.
Okay. You mentioned supplements. What have you found that works for blepharospasm?
Okay. I mentioned supplements in the context of eating well and taking supplements in general for a strength and health. I don't know if there are any specific supplements that help with BEB. I don't know. I am very interested in homeopathics and acupuncture and oriental medicine. And I tried everything I could think of before I went for Botox. It was like, what, poison? I'm going to take poison. And yet it's the only thing that worked. But all of those other things maybe helped a little tiny bit. I did all kinds of things like many of you did, I'm sure. I have the upper and lower, what do you call those things? Cauterized, I have oh my goodness. They put plugs in those
Punctal plugs.
Punctal, thank you. They put in punctal plugs. And then after a while, they started just doing cauterizing. So I've had that done. Actually, the most interesting thing that I found shocked me. I had cataract surgery. And I thought I was going to have to be a lot older to have cataract surgery. And it turns out that nowadays, they don't wait until you can hardly see. They will remove cataracts much, much earlier. And I was scared to death that I was going to have cataract surgery and my eyes were going to get worse. They were going to be drier and it was going to be harder. And I was shocked to find that they not only were not worse, but in fact, they were better. I don't know why. I have no idea why that would be the case. But I haven't worn those pictures that I showed with the FL41 lenses. I haven't had those prescription glasses in a long time since I had the cataract surgery. I do wear FL41 sunglasses, dark ones, kind of a wraparound thing, but I haven't had those prescription glasses for quite a long time. And for some reason, they're better.
Ruth Schaap noted that as far as the EMLA cream, the doctor might have to order it for his office before you go. Some do not have it just on hand. Mm-hmm. So if you want to ask your doctor to order it for you, that might be something that you want to have your doctor do. I've had a couple of people ask about if you know anything about acupuncture.
Well, okay, acupuncture in general, keep in mind, it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. So something doesn't stick around for that long if it doesn't have some usefulness and value. And it's one of those things that Western culture hears about and says, that's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. But in actuality, acupuncture works for a lot of things. One thing that it does is it helps you just in general relax and be helps the energy flow through your body in a more even way. It's a healthy, just kind of a generalized treatment for anything. Specifically for this, it didn't work. Well, I can take that back. It did. There was one time when I went in and I had acupuncture and they used this little electronic dealio thing that they sometimes add to it. It's like a little butterfly feeling on the needles that were in my eyes. And I had no spasms for a couple of days. I was shocked. This was before Botox. I was absolutely shocked. And I was blown away. I thought that was the most wonderful thing. And then the effect went away.
Wow.
And then I went back and had it done again, and it lasted for a couple of days, and then the effect went away. So it's like, I don't know.
Okay.
I think everybody's situation is different. So I can't say, it'd be nice if we could say there was something that worked for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's what's important for people to remember is that there's nothing that's a panacea that's going to work for everybody. A lady just wrote in that she stopped doing Botox and takes Ambien, which is great if that works for her, but that's not going to work for everybody. You know,
Ambien for most people would make them loopy and knock them out. So if you actually are taking Ambien and it's working for you, good on you.
Exactly. Well, that's the kind of the message that we've been giving out lately. Dr. So Parker did it, and you are doing it. And I apologize, my dog is barking. That if it works for you, don't question it. Just go with it. You know, a lady asked where she could find a copy of your book. Your presentation was wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, well, the book, thank you. I'm glad to hear it was useful. The book, The Language of Emotional Intelligence, is at Amazon. It was published by McGraw-Hill, but it was published in 2008, so it hasn't been revised. There are lots of things out there on emotional intelligence now, but at the time it was one of the few. The other thing that I co-authored is a curriculum for middle school. It's a rite of passage curriculum for middle school, so it's probably not the book you were asking about.
Okay. Well, we have about 4 people have asked if you have any experience working with CBD oil.
For blepharospasm, I don't, because by the time CBD oil became popularized and available and all that kind of stuff, I was already doing what I was doing and it works fine for me. And so I haven't. My mother was having excruciating, totally different problem, excruciating pain from neuropathy in her feet, to the point where she could hardly walk sometimes. It was horrible. And so way back, many years ago, I started getting her medical marijuana treatments, got her CBD. Well, we tried all sorts of versions. We tried tablets and we tried drops, and then we got to the things you rub on her feet. And that helped a lot, got her through a lot.
Yeah.
So
what about with stress?
With stress? Yeah, it helps a lot of people with stress. I have a funny marijuana story, if you want to hear one, with my mom. My mom died at 99. She was almost 100, but she was probably about 90, maybe 4 or 5 when this happened. She was, I heard the caregiver calling, and I went in the bathroom and she was on the floor, and I said, "Did she fall?" And she said, "No, I was helping her in the bathroom and she just slid right down to the floor, and I can't get her up." So we called the paramedics, and these 3 big hulking gorgeous guys come in, you know, and so then they start asking her questions, and it turns out that she had taken more than she should have. But she was in a lot of pain, and so she had taken some extra that we hadn't given her. Somebody else had, you know, that she took extra. Anyway, he said, "Oh, well, then we have a diagnosis. You're baked."
Okay, I think we're going to close with that. All right. I know we didn't get to every single question. If we didn't get to it, we'll see if we can get it into the newsletter. But I think that that's where we're going to stop with Dr. Jaffe's presentation. So I am going to just click a few buttons here. And here I'm back And in closing, first, again, I want to thank you, Dr. Jaffe, so much for taking your time and sharing your expertise, not only your expertise, but also your experience, especially since you also have blepharospasm as well. I have just a few slides that I want to show you, and I am going to, if I can get it going there. So as we are getting ready to put a cork in 2020, hopefully soon, we invite you next year in 2021 to help us celebrate the 40th birthday of the Benign Essential Blepharospasm Research Foundation. One of the things that we're going to be doing is unveiling an entirely new website, and I think that you're going to find it very, very user-friendly. And our symposium is scheduled for October 8th and 9th in 2021 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dr. Juraj Bilic is the program director. I hope you all can make it to the City of Brotherly Love. And then finally, thank you for attending our webinar today. And don't forget, your end of year donations make programs like this possible. So thank you all very much. And everybody have a great rest of your weekend.